Hello.
Hi, everyone.
We're just discussing Emily's health hygiene.
I just love crushing massive coffee in the morning, and then I come in here sometime on like the speed of light,
Yeah,
talking at a
she's
million miles a minute.
wound up this morning.
I put some content together for you guys today for this podcast.
I mean, you also just asked me how the Kardashians
Yes.
don't have flyaways, as
Actually-
if that's something that the lay people can accomplish.
Let's address this because perhaps our
It's
listeners
one of those
can
little
assist me.
brushes.
No. You guys, the Kardashians always have their hair in super cute, tight,
I honestly
tight
can't believe
top
we're talking
buns.
about
I know.
this.
And there's no flyaways.
Because
On the
of the
side-
little mascara
I don't know.
brush.
But
Have
that's
you
it.
ever used it?
I ordered one on Amazon. It was very jelly and greasy. I've tried hair
That's
gel
the solution.
and spray. I don't know. I just feel like we've got to be missing something here.
I mean, first of all, you don't ever do your hair, so that might be problem number one.
But can you imagine? Everyone who's listening who knows me, I only do the mom bun. Can we imagine the level of where I could take my looks if I could perfect the mom bun like a Kardashian bun?
I don't care what your hair looks like as long as you continue to clean out all of the shit in our office.
I had so much coffee this morning. I cleaned the entire corner of the downstairs of the educational section of the office.
The educational section of the office.
Yes, which is bags of balls and CPR dolls and babies and pillows and blankets and shit.
And for context,
Boxes
Emily
of
never
shit.
fucking cleans anything.
I just don't, I'm not bothered by stuff.
Clearly you're not bothered by
know.
stuff because your house is chaotic.
Yeah, it's a daycare center.
Yeah. Anyway,
so speaking of
we
daycare
actually had real information for you today.
I teed us up for that.
Wow, did you?
I was
did you write that out to have that segue?
No, I'm that good.
Yeah.
I'm that slick.
Okay.
I was thinking we would talk about people who are navigating transitions this fall, such as going to a new daycare, starting a new school, bringing in a new family member to watch your kid, or a nanny. Like, it actually just doesn't matter how you do your childcare.
Yeah.
Everyone experiences transitions, but I anticipate more so of that happening in the fall.
Yeah.
Especially with people going back to work.
Yep. People going back into the office, kids going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
I even think about the transition for my kids now back to school with like what our summer schedule has been, and like
I wonder what that's gonna look like for
who?
For Kate.
For your
no.
Kate?
Yeah.
Kate will be fine. She loves school.
I know.
It's Mackenzie who will probably be the problem.
We know who the problem in my house will be.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I mean, I feel like we can actually give like some pretty direct advice and tips around this transition.
Yeah.
I think the first one is, I'm going to throw you for a loop because this is not the first one on your list.
I made a list.
I just think it's about, and we can start with grace. Like, I think it's about giving, like, not feeling guilty about the transition and giving yourself a little bit of grace.
Yep.
Especially in the scenario where maybe your kid's having a hard time with the transition.
Right.
Because we've all been in the situation where, like, we internalize it as parents, mostly as moms, that like we must be doing something wrong, or we're feeling guilty about having to go back to work full time and dropping our kid off at daycare or with a nanny or whatever, and or dropping your kid off at school, and maybe it's a new school, or maybe it's the first time going to school and they're having a really hard time with drop off.
So I feel bad for Grace. Like, someday she's going to listen to this podcast and be like, you really highlighted a lot of my childhood moments. But I will use her as the example, which is that she went to a preschool. We did a nanny share, then she went to a little preschool, and then she went to Boston Public School for K1.
Yep.
And I dropped her off every morning, and every morning at drop off was a separation.
Colossal nightmare.
Anxiety, like she didn't want to go, crying. Then I start crying. It was colossal. And I mean, I would get in my car to then drive to Southie, and how many mornings did I call you crying coming to work?
Most.
Or show up crying.
Yeah.
They'd be like, the mornings. And you know what threw me is that most parents that we work with, they had hit a little patch for a couple weeks, maybe a month. They get in their groove, right? Most kids
do have a difficult time with this transition for a few days, max a few weeks.
Okay. And
most kids, not every kid.
And it's Christmas time.
I mean, Grace cried every day the entire year.
And then I thought, in the spring, no, all year. And you know what was so, let me tell you this too, guys, to make you feel better for your kid that's crying at drop off. The teachers would email me, text me, call me 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, that she's totally fine. They couldn't believe that she did that to me every morning at drop off. And then it got so bad that I just started having my husband do drop off. Yeah. Because she didn't do it to him.
Right. I've talked to clients about this recently where
so just do that. Have your husband do drop off.
No, seriously though.
No, I'm dead serious.
I actually have two examples of this. One is I was just talking to a client the other day, and she was telling me that like when she does drop off, her son gives her such a hard time. Yep. And when her husband does it, he does it. Totally. And I'm like, there's probably a difference in how you drop them off. You probably linger or like feel bad, and your husband's probably like, bye. And she's like, for sure, that's definitely happening.
Right.
But also like, as your kids get older, they know who they can get more of a reaction out of. Yeah. Versus not. And then the other example is that there was a little boy at the school this past year in K0 in preschool who cried truly, I think he actually cried every single day at drop off for the entire year. Exact same thing as Grace. I did. And that's not usually what happens. And it was the dad who dropped the kid off at school every day. And I'm pretty sure it started off as both parents in the beginning, and then it just transitioned to the dad, which I think was on purpose. Right. And this dad was awesome. Like, there were multiple times that I wanted to stop him, and I actually probably should have, to been like, you're doing a really good job, because he would like walk up to the school smiling. He would drop his son off. Right. He would tell him he's going to have such a great day and he'll see him later. And he smiled and turned around and walked out. And it was like this quick transition, did such a good job. And this kid still cried, but he did a really good job. And so, yes, great. Like, that is not the norm. Most kids do adjust, but if your kid doesn't, the point is you're still doing nothing wrong. And the point is like if you are a mom who's internalizing this and making yourself feel guilty about it, stop. I mean, am I allowed to like tell how bad this got with Grace?
Oh yeah, because I have a funny story.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Like Emily, like you guys, this was so bad in the fall.
And for context, this is like what, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't remember. She's going to be in
K1, so second grade. Yeah, maybe 3 years ago. In fairness, you're like, this was also a time where you were very anxious. Like, we were like, no, you were aware of it, but like, you were still managing the anxiety there. Anyway, you guys, like, not only would she call or show up crying,
I don't even know what you're going to say.
So like, you called out of work if you died.
Oh yeah, they did. I totally did. I forgot about that.
I was like, so Emily, you're not allowed to call out of work. She's one of the owners of our company. I was like, you're not allowed to not work because you can't drop your kid off the school.
Can't come today. I'm just so
sad, upset.
So sad. I couldn't stop crying.
I was like, so it's not about drop off. I think this might be related to your anxiety. You were like, yeah.
It's crazy though. So like when Maddie started at that school the next year, she's fine. Yeah. But I still was like, I didn't want to set myself up. So we got into this routine where AJ he did drop off every morning. Yeah. And the key was I would leave. And then after I was gone, he would then get the girls out, scooter them down. Great. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was super pregnant with Eloise. I had on like this like dress from TJ Maxx. It was too short when I was pregnant. Remember that red dress?
Sorry, you're making a big jump in time here. I want to be clear.
It's a big jump, but it's a funny story.
No, I know exactly the story that you're going to tell, and it's a good one. But like Emily hadn't done, when you hadn't done drop off in so long, and then you did it the one day. Yeah, she had. So like they decided that AJ was going to do drop off
years later.
No, I know, which was the right move. So AJ like basically has done drop off for years. Yep. But when Emily was pregnant with Eloise a few years later, there was like one day where you had to do drop off for AJ.
This will be so nice. Like it's always so smooth.
Yeah. Okay, so she's very pregnant with Eloise because Eloise is born in October. She did drop off with Grace and Maddie in September.
I'm standing in the gym at the school dropping them off, and out of nowhere, Maddie just decides that she's upset that I'm leaving. Yeah. And she crawled under my dress. Yeah. I was literally 8 months pregnant. Yeah. No. And she like went into the womb. Like I felt like she was going to like enter back into like the birth canal. And she was like on me. And guys, at that point, I'm a pro, and I'm looking at this teacher, Miss Lisa, who I love, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I don't want to linger. I was trying to be quick, and Lisa's like, go, 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 and I'm like, I can't. She's under my dress. My butt is hanging out in the gym. I physically can't get her off her, and they had to peel her off of me.
Yeah.
And I ran to my car, and I'm laughing my ass off, not crying. You'd be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So forget it. I guess.
You call me and you were like, I can't do drop off.
Guess what? When AJ doesn't do it now, the nanny does. I still do it.
I know.
I'll pick them up.
Yeah.
Not dropping them off.
Okay.
Forget it. All right, we got to.
So that's tip number 1. But all these tips are not going to be this long.
And if your child's under your dress, just throw them off of you and run.
Like, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about what you're doing. Like, you chose where you're going for a reason. Like, you're good. Don't linger. And it is okay if your kid is upset. What I can guarantee you is, like, all kids are fine 5 minutes later. Yeah,
they are.
Okay. Go ahead. You can go in the order of your list now if you'd like.
All the coffee. I was just thinking back for when Maddie was a baby.
Are you telling another story?
Yeah. My point though is that I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
My tip next is to pack your shit the night before.
Yeah.
But for me, that was most relevant for when Maddie was a baby.
Yeah.
Because Grace was a toddler, Maddie was a baby, we were running the company.
And having 2 kids isn't like 1 + 1 = 2. Like, it takes you twice as long to do things. It's like 1 + 1 = 15. Like, it takes you 15 times longer to do shit with 2 kids. Yeah.
And they were both under 2.
Yeah.
And I was seeing patients at the office.
Yeah.
still.
No, it's a fucking nightmare.
And I was pumping.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned that to have a successful morning meant, even though I just wanted to go to bed sometimes, like just getting my shit together that night, all the way down to me showering at night.
Yeah.
So like if I was going to especially go into the office the next day, I had to have the diaper bag packed, the bottles defrosted of breast milk and laid out, the lunches made, my lunch made, a pumping bag made with the clean pump parts.
Yeah.
And then I would even shower, didn't blow dry my hair, but I would shower, obviously, and then lay out my outfit for the next day too.
Yeah.
Not every day, tried.
So special.
So sometimes I would do that and we would like fly through the morning and it was great. And then the times that I didn't do it, the mornings were fucking hard. Yeah.
I mean, even now with my kids in school, because I always had a nanny. So there wasn't like the daycare drop off or something like that. But when you're talking about going into the office and pumping, or a daycare drop off with kids, you're talking about a lot of people that you got to get out the door in the morning.
It's a lot
with all their shit.
Right.
But even now with
the dog, someone's got to let the dog out to be.
True. Even with the kids though in school, like there's a massive difference in my mornings. Massive difference in my mornings when I make the lunches the night before and when I make them in the morning. It's like when you make them in the morning, it's so much easier.
They're just done.
I will insert one tip here that actually is not in our notes, but is helpful for if you just have any kid of any age who's giving you a hard time getting dressed in the morning, and or you still don't do this.
I know.
And or if you're trying to make your mornings easier. I didn't even do this intentionally, you guys. It's just like became part of our routine, and now I have not broken it because it's so easy. Is your kids are not allowed out of the room until they're dressed in the morning.
You did it as babies.
I do it 7 days.
Them as babies.
Always, yeah.
Brought them out.
And it wasn't on purpose. I just that's what you do in the morning. You get up, you brush your teeth, unlike some people first thing in the morning. And you get dressed and you start your day. So even now my kids at 7 and 5 during the summer, on the weekends, during the school year, I'll lay out their clothes now for school that they're older, but like they are not allowed out of the room until they're dressed. And it's part of our routine, and it's just not a big fucking deal because it's what we do. It's what we've always done. And like, we don't fight about clothes. I really don't.
Yeah.
My kids will pick out their outfits now, which is fine.
Right.
But like, I don't fight with my kids about getting dressed.
Yeah. I mean, Jamie will FaceTime me on like a Saturday morning to see if we want to hang out, maybe get the kids together. It'll be 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And her kids are like fully dressed, hair done. And we're all like literally in our pajamas still.
Yeah.
My girls love staying in their pajamas.
I just don't like to mess around.
Can I just wear my PJs all day? And then sometimes she'll change her PJs in the morning to new PJs to wear for the day on a Saturday.
I'm fine with that. You want to get dressed in the morning in more PJs? Go right ahead. I think that's a great idea. just keep the routine.
I know.
I think
it's a great idea.
It's a tip that's worked for me. It's a tip that's worked for clients. I've talked to clients who have a hard time getting their kids dressed, and it's just like,
I lay
you
the
can make it
clothes
a
out
new
now,
rule.
which is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I lay their outfits out for camp.
Yeah.
And usually they'll put them on. And then like every now and then Maddie will be like, I'm not wearing that. I'm wearing a Disney Belle ball gown.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, doesn't
Just
matter.
put your clothes on.
Yeah. Okay. So
get your shit ready the night before.
But the night before, lay out clothes for your kids if they're at an age where they can get dressed, or lay out clothes for your kids so you know you're putting them in the next morning, and like they know that that's part of their routine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a story about the next tip, which is like, remember that you chose your childcare provider, you chose the school that you're going to for a reason, right? Yep. And like, like you probably thought about this a lot. You probably did some research, right? Like some
interviews, right. Some background checks,
right? Like you made an educated choice, and so when you're making this transition, our general recommendation is like, get involved like only when it's impacting you, like, or your child's, like, for a good reason, right? What does that mean? That means like, don't micromanage, especially for younger kids, like don't micromanage your childcare provider. Like, you know, if they're being fed, if they're getting sleep when they need sleep, and like you're picking your kid up and they're happy, maybe they're a mess, but like they're happy and they've slept and like, you know, they're pleasant to be around and like, you know that they've been fed, then like you're good. You don't need to know exactly how many ounces they took and when, exactly down to the minute they slept, and, you know, and when, because like you don't have a ton of control over those things, especially sleep, right?
If you give rigid guidelines too, your childcare provider gets nervous when they don't perfectly follow them sometimes.
Right.
And then they're almost afraid to tell you.
No, I know.
And
right.
That's not helpful either.
Right. So like, think about, if you're not new here, like a question that Emily and I talk about all the time is like, what is it costing you? What is it costing your child? Like, is it just that you want to know how long they slept or how much they ate, but actually like your kid's totally fine? Then like, I'd probably let that go. Right. So that's more of like the childcare provider. I actually have a story about this related to school. Like, the kids go to school. Sometimes they upload like pictures onto a portal where like you can take a look. Like, love seeing them when they upload them. Right. But like, I actually don't communicate with the teachers beyond like the communication that they send out, unless like they have a concern for me or I have a concern.
Call me.
Yeah, like I'm in the camp, and everybody's a little bit different here, right? But like, I'm in the camp of like, when somebody communicates something to me, I'll listen, but like otherwise, like no news is good news, right?
No news is good news.
They're like, the one time that I have, you know, reached out to the teacher and like gotten involved was like, Kate is and was like clearly having issues around like perfectionism, and like it looked like it was starting to result in like a little bit of anxiety. Like, she had woken me up 2 nights in the fall last year, it was like early in the morning, it was like 5:00 in the morning, and it was like, I don't think that I did, and she was like, I don't think that I did my homework right, and I was like, oh sweetie, I'm like, you got to go back to bed, we'll talk about it when you wake up, right? Like, but like that happened twice, and I was like, red flag. Like, why is this like waking her up at night?
First grade homework. Yikes.
Yeah. So like, talk to her teacher about it. Like, this is like, I reached out to the teacher. Her and I had a conference about it. She was like, so funny that you're saying this. She doesn't like, I can see her get upset when she doesn't know how to do things, but like, I never would have thought that she's like a kid who's going to wake you up because she doesn't think that she's doing it right. We talked through like, are there consequences if you don't do the homework right? Right. I wanted to make sure that the teacher and I were both saying the same things in the classroom and at home. And we set her up with the guidance counselor at the school to like have one-on-one time to like talk through when she's like feeling worried or overwhelmed. And like that, she didn't wake up again about homework. She still gets upset about not doing things right or perfectly the first time. So weird. I have no idea where she gets that from. But yeah, so like, so again, is it costing you something? Is it costing your child something? Are you picking up or coming home to a child who is overtired or hungry? Okay. Like, yeah, you're going to say something then, right? But like, think about what like those non-negotiables are around your physical and mental health, your child's physical and mental health, and then where you can be flexible.
Yeah.
And only intervene during the times that like maybe are impacting something that's costing you something, or for your non-negotiables. So that's what I would say around that.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm thinking so many things, obviously, but one, like a big thing when I had Eloise and our nanny started, that sort of goes back to, you just referenced an older kid story, like a baby story, is that when I wrote out Eloise's schedule for the day for her, I did not write out her schedule. I wrote
general.
She eats about every 2 to 3 hours.
Yep.
She's able to be awake about 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yep.
When she sleeps, it's about 1 to 1.5 hours.
Yep.
And then I said, here's her sleep sack, here's the sound machine, here's the bottles, and answered any questions. But I did not say she eats at 9 a.m., only 4 ounces. Like she sleeps, she's got to be in the crib by 10, and she always sleeps 2 hours for me.
Right.
I was like, that's not going to happen for a childcare provider at first. Right. They've got to get to know your kid and navigate it.
Right.
So I just felt like that, for anybody, give guidelines rather than rigid structure.
Yeah, agreed.
And then practice. Have practice days.
Right.
I had my nanny come over, and she's very experienced. She had watched my nephews, but when I was pregnant, not pregnant, I was postpartum, the 2 P words.
Yeah.
Postpartum with Eloise, I didn't need help some of those days, but I had her come over to practice. And one day I stayed home and I showered and I did a few things around the house. That way, if she needed me, she could ask me some questions.
Yep.
Showed her some things. Yep. Another day I left and went on an errand for a couple hours. Yep. Like really little stints to practice.
Yep.
And even if you're using a daycare, you can still have practice days.
Yep.
It might not be with the daycare, but you could have a family member.
A lot of daycares do practice days.
You could, yeah. But if you couldn't, you could have a family member come over and just practice driving to Whole Foods and buying a gallon of milk, right? It's the act of saying goodbye, leaving and going, and leaving someone else to figure it out for a little stretch of the day.
I feel like oftentimes schools have practice days built in a little bit too, where the first day is a half day.
It's ideal.
Or this might be a little late to the game now, but we pocket this for next year for people who are listening with younger kids or following years. But or I did for Kate, I did 1 week of camp at the school.
So
the last week of camp that they offered, which was the middle of August.
Right.
And it was the camp was at the school. It was at the same door where I would drop her off for school. And so we had those practice days then. Now you might not be able to do that with your school, obviously, or that might not be a good option for you. But that's why I think oftentimes the schools have these, they'll start midweek. So it's there's just, the first day is a half day and then 2 full days. And then you have the weekend. So I think a lot of schools intentionally do that.
That's also for anyone going back to work.
Totally.
You don't have to go back to work on a Monday.
Right.
I mean, somebody might have to, but
you can always ask.
A say in it, you could ask to start on a Wednesday or a Thursday, or have a couple half days then full days. I mean, if you go back to work for your very first time on a Wednesday or a Thursday, it eases the blow. It's just a couple days and then it's the weekend, and then you can go in for the Monday. But I mean, I do think the one thing that anyone listening, whether for any transition, the biggest question that we get is, okay, I know it's coming and I hear you don't linger and do this and that when I'm in it. What can you do in advance to set yourself up?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what you would say, but for me, it's always the same thing for anybody, which is just where you have your kind of control is just in your current routine.
Right.
So as you navigate any new transition, bringing a baby home or moving houses, you want to just try to keep your routine and groove at home just consistent, right? Which is basic stuff. Wake up about the same time every day. Have breakfast, lunch, and dinner around the same times every day.
Yep.
Make sure you have your active playtime and your quiet time or your naps on a regular schedule.
Yep.
Hit bedtime around the same time every night. Those areas you can show up and be consistent in and have control over.
Yep.
That actually helps with the transition.
Yeah. No, that is what I would say. And I would say you don't have to do this months in advance. I would do this the week or 2 ahead of time.
Totally.
But people who, it doesn't matter if you're starting daycare, right? And you have a kid who sleeps until 7:30 in the morning.
Right.
But you actually have to be out of the house by 7. Then you need to start waking up at 6:15 or 6:30, right? So start that a week ahead of time.
Yeah.
Or older kids. I'm even just thinking about my kids in the transition back to school. They're still waking up at a time where it'll be the same time as school, but they're just lounging in the morning and watching TV and
eat
then
muffins.
Yeah, they grab muffins out of their cabinet.
Kids, they live on muffins.
I just sleep until I want to sleep, and then I get up, get dressed, and go out into the family room and get everybody
They've learned to
out
serve
the door.
themselves the muffins.
But I can already tell you that like it's going to be right now the way that they just like lounge and hang out in the morning, like they're going to have a hard time like actually like getting up and moving.
For me, it's bedtime.
Yeah,
we're rocking a real late bedtime right now, summer fun, and you better believe 2 weeks before school starts, that shit's going right back down.
Yeah, like the week before school starts, I'll start actually like making them like get up, and maybe we'll go out the door and grab like coffee.
And we probably won't even do big jumps.
No,
they're going to bed between 8 and 8:30 now. I'll probably like get to 8, get to 7:45, 7:30. I don't think I can go earlier than that.
No,
with the big kids.
Yeah,
that's not Eloise, my baby, by the way. That kid's real consistent on that nice 7 o'clock bedtime every night.
Yeah.
Just the big kids.
Yep. Same. Yeah. So those are the things that I would think about. And truly the biggest takeaway is just like give yourself and your kids. If the transition's hard for you, then think about what that must feel like for your kid. Although it's like a small child, the transition is probably harder for you than the baby. So just give yourself and your children a lot of grace. Ask for help where you need it. If that is around somebody else dropping off your kids at school, then or daycare, then do that. And just give everybody a little bit of time to settle in.
If you're crying in your car every morning at drop off,
schedule a call with Emily.
Schedule a call with me. I will help you.
Do you want Emily to help you, or do you want me to help you?
They want me.
I'm just fucking with you. Because I'm going to be like, still gotta go.
I'm gonna be like, I hear you. I understand.
Depends on what kind of encouragement you want. All right, everyone.
If you're not showing up at work, you should probably call Jamie. Okay.
We'll see you next week.